All right, welcome everybody again to the Tier List Show. As you've seen, there is a change of scenery. We have transitioned the show online, but I promise the quality will only get worse. I'm, of course, here today with my co host, Mr. Roger Dodger.
Hi.
Thank you. Um, Today we have a very pleasant episode. It is Mice Mods and which ones are the best. Of course, I've got our generic tier list up here: S, A, B, C, and D. And just off the dome, we're going to go for it in this order. So, first off, um, actually, truth be told, I've never used a lot of these, but just.
I have actually used like an approximation of SoSpacer grips, but they were really bad, and I'm sure actual SoSpacer grips are like 100 times better than what I tried.
Yeah, yeah. And also, these are just generic items. Like this Amaron switch, it's not specifically this Amaron switch, it's all my switches and how they make a difference. So, we're going to start with the SoSpacers, like we were just mentioning. I have not used these before. I have watched Boardsy's take. Ben has watched Boardsy's take in addition to using them. I think we're going to agree here that
They're pretty useless.
very useless. And they don't seem that expensive. Oh, I have the Chrome tab open up there. They don't seem that expensive, but it's just, I don't know. I don't see where it could be worth it.
I mean, do you have trouble keeping your fingers on mouse 1 and mouse 2? Like it's not like
Yes,
it's like a tiny
yes,
surface.
but this solves that. Grip tape, which I'm gonna put in A. I absolutely love grip tape. I have two different versions, so of course now I'm turning into Boardsy where I just grab another mouse randomly on my desk. But this is some BTL grip tape right here. Absolutely love it. This BTL grip tape is absolutely fantastic. Really big fan of it. And this right here is. I refreshed the page. And we're back! I refreshed the Chrome page. Very good. But anyways, this BTL tape, awesome. Really like it. It was decently cheap as well. It actually, I don't know. I think I gotta wear it in a little more, but it has this kind of odd texture to it, even though it's much more usable than this Pulsar tape, which is cut for this X2. You can kind of see it, I guess, in the reflection. Um, Not as much of a fan as this X2 tape. It has a much more slippery texture to it, so I don't feel like it does a lot. However, it does way more than the actual coating on my X2. That is a given. So I'm gonna put grip tape there. Ben, I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Personally, you know what I like grip tape for? Not even for like the actual gripping thing, because I mean, I don't think I've ever had a problem gripping a mouse. I don't exactly death grip it. I kind of do
Mm-hmm.
like a hybrid, like claw. Sometimes I'm more fingertippy
Yeah,
depending on
exactly. I'm with
what
you
I'm
there.
doing at the time. Honestly, grip tape just looks cool.
Yeah.
I don't care if I were to get mogged on by somebody for saying that. It
Okay.
just looks cool.
So
I love Pulsar's like super grip tape on like white mice. It just makes the mouse look cooler. I literally would just use it out of the cool factor.
so where do you think it should go then?
Still a day.
Okay, great. I'm glad we're in agreement here. Um, Next we have mouse bungees. I'm very much a wireless guy. Again, as you just referenced and saw by the two wireless mice I have. Um,
I think 90% of people probably are at this point.
exactly. Wireless has just gotten so good. But if you are the sweaty professional that has to use a wired mouse, like I get it. You know, I do. Um, I think a
I
mouse
don't.
bungee is absolutely a lifesaver because those cables can become hell very fast. This particular one by Zowie actually looks pretty cool, but as Ben was mentioning pre-show, I guess Pulsar has one that's pretty alright. I might put a picture of it on the screen. Um, Ben, any thoughts about where you think it should go?
Uh, C. Like I mean, I'm giving it a C out of like I guess practicality. Like I mean, most people are using wireless. Like
I
if you're
would.
using like a mouse bungee, you're probably still like actually just like a sweaty professional. And at that point, I mean, like, come on. Come on. Somebody tell the man to start using a wireless mouse, please.
I guess that's fair. For the wired users, though, I feel like it's so crucial that it's like an S tier to an extent.
I mean,
But I
I
guess I
currently
kind of get what
use a
you're saying
wired
now.
mouse,
Oh,
and I only have a problem like once a month.
see, it is. Next up,
As the actual, ironically, the wired mouse user, because I don't have my wireless mouse at the moment. So
mm. Hang on, I gotta move this fan away. It's creating a lot of ambient noise I can see in OBS, and it still is. I'm just gonna turn it off. Okay. Next up, we have mice cables. Obviously, here I have a picture of a coiled keyboard cable, but the cable itself can make a difference, and the coating of the cable. I will say this again, talking about my Pulsar here, but the sheathing on this Pulsar cable actually makes it feel like really lightweight when I do have to use it wired as it's charging, and I think it's stellar the way they did this cable. So I think the sheathing material actually does matter quite a bit. However, I don't know how much of the actual cable you can change and how much of it would be,
it's mostly just material.
yeah, and how much would be like solved compared to just putting it in a bungee, Like, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a mid mod and like only kind of for the look, and it was definitely something.
That's literally what I was
Yeah.
gonna entirely comment about. This is like the ultimate like just like style mod. Like,
Pretty much.
I mean, most people are using a wireless mouse, but when you need to like charge it or something, I mean, pretty much every mouse just comes standard with like a paracord, now. Like, we're not in like the world of the heavy rubber cable. So
Yeah.
like you don't even really have to grab an aftermarket one for like use now. If you were to grab one, it's just because I want to have a different color.
Yeah, that's true. Um, yeah, I think it belongs in C behind the, because again, first of all, who's using wired mice nowadays? I guess you are.
Exactly.
But
I'm only using this because it was cheap.
yeah, fair. But also like it's just such a pointless mod, especially now that there's so many actually like good wired mice out there. So it's whatever. Next is the battery. So I think in regards to the battery, having a smaller battery for weight reduction. Um, and I have an opinion on this, but first I want to hear where you're at on this for sure.
Personally, as not actually that heavy of a mouse modder like you are, uh, smaller battery better in my mind. Even just in like general like mice, I'm more of like a smaller battery to save weight type of guy
You know
because
what?
like
Let me get something
I
practically
charge
example.
my mice. I charge my mice like religiously. The only time it's really unplugged is when I'm like actually like gaming. Otherwise, I'm just like casual use case. Like, I don't know. Small battery to me is not a problem. I am charging my mouse religiously, man. You could give
Yep.
me like a 4 hour battery time and I would be fine.
I agree. And so here, I'm holding it up to my camera right now, is a stock Logitech battery. I'm going to stick it to my thumb for scale because it's actually pretty accurate. Just like, it's basically the size of my thumb, right? Versus the battery which I have put in this very modded Superlight, which you can't necessarily see super well, but when I put the other one up for scale, there's definitely a size difference. You can't really tell. It would help if I actually took the battery out, which I'm not going to do. It is mounted in there very well. But it absolutely makes a difference, both in weight and, again, in actual like time of use. But I mean, again, like you were saying, it really isn't a big deal, especially for the weight savings you get. And if it's a stock battery that's already pretty lightweight, that saves me time as a modder to where I don't have to go in there and chuck a smaller battery in it. Huge, like, difference maker there. That is for sure. This is going in S tier.
Like, I would get a smaller battery if like the battery was already like just way too insane, I guess, and I was gonna save like a fair amount of weight, but like other than that, I don't really see a need to like
So where do you
try
think
to
it
like
goes?
change out the battery all the time. I guess S. To me,
Okay.
I'm guessing I'm just saying like lightest wins for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it sucks a lot more than some of these mods to do. Like, as a normal user, you can easily put on these you can put on this grip tape, you can put on these mouse feet, you can put on these. But this actually does take some pretty decent knowledge of soldering and making sure you don't lose screws. I mean, this Superlight I've lost like 6 screws on it or something. It just creaks, like it's just a weird situation. Um, so you run a lot of risk doing this mod. However, the gains from it are just incredible. It's beyond words. Now, this is kind of an interesting one. I guess I want to hear your opinion on it as well. But mouse switches. Um, I'll start off by saying that in a case of like the G Pro when it first came out and it constantly double clicks and just sucks, this is like necessary. So it's pretty much like in a tier above S. It's like you have to do this. But on mice like this X2V2 for example, which are really hard to take apart, but they do have notoriously bad switches, but only use optical switches. Like this is a modification that comes with a lot of caveats, especially nowadays with the new technology going into mice. What do you think?
Honestly, if a Switch just like is okay, like it's not terrible, I probably won't notice. I am not the Switch guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Um,
I'm definitely more of the like skates guy. I will probably not actually notice the switches.
mm, yeah, I'm gonna put that right here. I'm gonna put it in a B. There is a mod that we did forget to put, which I am remembering now, and it is actually mouse switch pre-travel mods, which I have done again on this Superlight. It basically, I'll turn this one off as well so we can get kind of a comparison. Um, but there is an amount of flex in your mouse one. See all that flex right there? Before the
It'll
switch
tensioning.
clicks. Now, when you do a pre-travel mod, you cannot put pressure on the mouse without clicking. This just allows you to have more spammable buttons. It allows the mouse just to feel a little bit better as you're clicking. I think a pre-travel mod is super helpful, especially on a super light where it has atrocious levels of pre-travel, especially on the side buttons. Pre-travel is definitely going in an S for me. I don't know if it's something you're really well versed on, but I mean, do you have any rebuttal?
Not really. I'm not the pre-travel guy again.
Yeah, so it's actually really easy
It
as
it
well.
does matter to me though more than the mouse switch type. I would say
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does
yeah.
matter to me though because you can actually notice pre-travel a lot easier.
And it's a super easy fix. You don't even have to take apart, or you don't have to desolder the switches or anything. All you have to do is put like a piece or two of electrical tape on the contact point that hits the top of your mouse switch, this little white dot right here. Super easy to do. You don't have to desolder. All you have to do is take your mouse apart, which again, for some people might prove to be difficult, but it is absolutely crucial. I will put an image of pre-travel in post for this. Um, Next up, scroll wheel encoders. I think this is actually a pretty slept on mod. It's pretty hard to find them, is the only problem. It's not super mainstream. So if you go to Lethal Gaming Gear, you can obviously find your mouse switches super easily. They have a decent selection, and even like Amazon, AliExpress, that kind of thing. You can find what you're looking for. And you can find scroll wheel encoders on AliExpress and Amazon, but they are very overpriced for what they really should be. And there's no real telling if they're actually authentic or not. So while if you can get a authentic TTC Gold or whatever you're looking for, I actually think it's a pretty slept on mod, especially if you're in a game that utilizes the scroll wheel a lot, like even CS:GO for example, where it's set to jump. I think this is an A tier mod, but I'm ready for rebuttal as well.
Okay, if you've used a bad scroll wheel, I have used some bad scroll wheels. I have used like some of the OG like bad Zowie scroll wheels. Uh, you'll notice immediately the change from them. This one I actually have like a lot more of an opinion on.
Okay,
I kind of like them a little bit. Okay, for clicking, I like them extremely light.
as in your
Like,
scroll wheels, correct?
yes, for like the middle mouse, button pressing. But for like the actual like, scrolling experience, I like them like super notched, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
feel every individual movement, like every little like single step I make.
Yeah, you don't want it to be super smooth necessarily.
And some mice just don't deliver that. So I should actually I've never actually modded a scroll wheel. I should probably actually look into that.
It is. So that's another thing about this mod is unfortunately it is pretty in depth. Most scroll wheel encoders are on the same PCB as your mouse switch, and that can cause difficulties in, especially in the implementation. It can vary from mouse to mouse, but also it does require soldering work, which is not the end of the world. Soldering is a super easy skill. It just requires some equipment that can be pricey, and a lot of time as well, and very much patience. You have to be very careful with how you solder things. The encoder itself costs like, I don't know, $5 in the right place, and soldering tools as well as some solder. I don't know, for a solder sucker, a solder iron, that kind of thing. I mean, you could be $75 out of the way at that point. So it's a job you usually try to leave to someone else, unless you have all the
Know a
equipment already,
friend who
like I
owns a
do.
soldering iron.
Pretty much. Hey, right here. Um, but yes, I definitely think it's a mod that actually matters more than a lot of people realize. But it's kind of like switches where they're just gonna live with it rather than actively pursue like change, if that makes any sense. At least in my opinion. I don't know.
Switches are like a bit easier to do, like starting to at least become a bit easier to do. Have you seen like the new like hot swap?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
Hmm.
hot swap.
Yeah, it's actually the exact same. If you were to solder, it's the exact same thing as a scroll wheel encoder. It's actually just 3 pins on the bottom side of the clicking PCB, which really again is not bad. But at the end of the day, you do have to have the skill. So yeah. Uh,
It's just a question of how much they also care about hot swapping scroll wheels.
exactly. Moving on now. Arm sleeves. I'm gonna start it in B solely for the reason that it's like kind of crucial if you have a glass mouse pad, which I don't. But you can live without it on a glass mouse pad, but it would suck a lot otherwise. And they kind of have a coolness factor to them, in addition to some sports
Okay, I've
science
got
related
comments on the
stuff.
coolness factor.
Okay, but there's a little bit of like sports physics behind it as well. If it actually is a compression sleeve where it's like actually tight to your arm, um, the restricted blood flow and stuff like that. It's very reminiscent of like compression sleeves and like knee sleeves that you'd use in an actual sport. Well, actually, esports is a sport. Hot take, but in another
I don't think
sport,
that's a hot take around
like
esports.
for some people it is, believe me. But like football, for example, when you have a knee like a compression sleeve on your knee, it's to keep in that case, it's to keep the bones there so that they don't break as easily, um, and just help your knee like move and whatnot. And I think arm sleeves and compression sleeves have the same effect here, but you kind of have to understand like what size you are, and also, you know, if it actually does benefit you or not. Because if you don't have a glass mouse pad, it's kind of,
Probably not going to benefit you.
yeah, it's not super crucial unless you really do get one that's compression. But I think there's a coolness
Or
factor
you're
to
like
it.
me and try to aim for every single little small gain you can get.
Yeah, like I think they're cool looking, but as he's about to point out, you absolutely can look like a nerd with them. And so I'll let you continue from here.
Okay, if you rock up, okay, I don't know how many people who possibly are gonna watch this are rocking up to lands, but if you rock up to a LAN with a arm sleeve, you're either gonna look like a complete tool to like 90% of the people, or you're gonna like absolutely like MVP whatever game you're playing, and you're gonna look like the most cool guy, in my opinion. I'm sure somebody is gonna say, no, you just look lame no matter what. But it's absolutely, to me, depends on the quality of the player you are. If you use an arm sleeve and you're super good, unironically start saying it's all the arm sleeve.
Yeah, I think Nico's been using one in CS recently, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a
I'm pretty sure
pulsar
he
one,
has.
actually, just like the one in this picture. Um, So, what do you think about B tier? You think it's fair there? You think it's higher? You think it's lower?
I would give it a B tier.
Okay.
B
Yeah.
tier, and honestly, it's Schrodinger's S tier, depending on how well you play
Exactly. Yeah.
Ophonon or not.
And if you're at a level to where all of those small gains actually matter, if that makes any sense.
Because if you do well with it on, you can look like you got hella drip.
Mhm. All right. Next up, you might rebuttal me here. Mouse skates. This is obviously a picture of the Pulsar Super Glides. It's a glass mouse skate, but I would like to reiterate that also normal mouse skates, like these BTL ones on my X2, are just as impactful. Mouse skates, contrary to what Shroud believes, apparently, because that video got released recently, which I will leave in the description.
Hang on.
Horrendous.
I think maybe what he's thinking about with them is when you because people used to put on mouse skates improperly and it would fuck up their sensor detection because they wouldn't properly take it all off. Because when you take it off, you have to be able to you just see screw, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Some people would leave I don't remember what part it was on, but they wouldn't take it off properly, and then they put the other ones on, and so it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, so actually, an example of this, of course, the Super Light that I have to bring out for the 5th time in this video. Each one of these has a rubberized pad under it. These are Esports Tiger Ice V1s. The stock Logitech skates do not utilize they do utilize the rubber pads that Logitech puts under here. I can actually dig through my trash real quick and get an example of what I mean. There's also a hair in here that's bothering me. But
Bro,
in order
digging through the trash, this is the kind of work he puts in for this.
Give me a moment. All right, here we go. I just got a few new Super Lights. New Super Lights is actually an overstatement, but this is an example of the rubberized
open
pad
box Super Lights.
that goes at the circular part down here. And the Logitech skates are so thin, because they're a very thin PTFE material, that they go on top of that silicone pad. Now, for any newer mouse skates or just aftermarket in general, you have to take that pad off, which actually miscalibrates your liftoff distance, which is what he's referring to here. And that's what would miscalibrate your mouse sensor and cause it to go all whack. Now, Shroud's been around the scene since when, yes, that would actually mess your mouse up pretty significantly. But now in software, you can easily program your liftoff distance to where that doesn't matter anymore.
And even if you were to screw it up, you might not even be able to know right away.
Exactly. So Shroud's wrong. Mouse skates are awesome. Again, picking up my X2V2, I guess it's just the greatest mouse ever made. That's not true, but I just reference it a lot. The BTL skates that I've put on the bottom of here, Boardsy had a very good take on them. They just really echo how good your mouse pad is and the surface that it is as well. So this pad I have here,
that is something about mouse skates is if you have not the greatest mouse pad or a really grungy one, you'll definitely probably feel it more through a good set of mouse skates.
Exactly, and then that will drive you to get a better mouse pad, which will make you a better player. Which
and it will make the companies more money.
We'll talk about that later, but
we are secretly an arm of the companies.
Yeah, exactly. I have a control pad right here, and this feels like a very controlled, smooth yet controlled glide on this thing. And these BTL skates were $8 for this, and easily probably. Actually, it's the only real upgrade I've done to this mouse aside from the grips, and it's probably the most impactful. I mean, it just feels amazing. And then mouse skates even have another level where if you wanted to go glass and just have absolutely no stopping force whatsoever, because you're in a very arena-based title like Overwatch, or dare I say Team Fortress 2, Quake even, yeah. Or you're in Aim Labs where stopping power isn't as important. And you're competing in Aim Labs or Kovacs or whatever, glass skates can actually help you a lot. Or really good mouse feet on a glass pad, for example. Super impactful to your performance in general. They're definitely an S tier mod. And speaking of S tier mods, is your mouse pad. Actually, I'm putting in A tier.
The ultimate drip factor.
Yes. So first of all, it's the ultimate drip factor. People compliment this mouse pad all the time. I didn't choose it for its look. I chose it because it was cheap. It was $20 on sale. It's massive, and it's a control pad from a actually pretty underground company called Locus. They do mostly mouse pads, hybrid pads, kind of focused towards Apex players, ironically. But this control pad feels great, and for as cheap as it was, and it has a good look to it, like it's kind of the all-around package, right? Whereas you can go super expensive with the Glass mouse pad that's like $110 and just have no swapping power whatsoever. But if you know what you're doing, then it's super impactful. However, I think there's a caveat that it's it's kind of placebo to an extent, where like I've been like there are times where I've underperformed and I'm like, man, is it really, should I like try a different mouse pad here? Maybe something more expensive like an Artisan, blah blah blah. And it's kind of like the whole mouse itself. There can like using a cheaper mouse kind of makes you want to upgrade. And so if you use a cheap mouse pad, which can be just fine, you might have an issue, or you might think you have an issue to where you need to upgrade to something else. And so there is a lot of that placebo effect in mouse pads that I think can cause people to actually move to different pads that will actually suit their needs worse than something else. And so I think for that reason alone, I kind of want to put it in A tier. But again, I would like to hear your
You just want to put it in A
this.
tier because people are stupid and fall for placebo?
I mean, yeah. I do think it is super, super important, but I don't know. I don't know. This is actually a very
I
hard one to
genuinely
judge.
do think that it is actually extremely important, but Ethan is entirely right about the placebo thing. People will definitely fall for placebo and like genuinely get caught up enough that you probably will blame your mouse pad at least once.
You know what?
And like
I'm gonna
assert that in your mind.
I'm gonna put it at a low S right here. I think it's warranted enough, as long as the viewers of this video and also competitive gamers just kind of understand that there is going to be a pretty substantial difference between mouse pads, and that you need to do proper research on which one you get. So yeah, I think that's all my thoughts on this. But
you need to get the one specifically for your brand.
yeah, Shroud, no. Okay, moving on. This is a dumbbell, but it reflects weight modification. I think this is another tricky one. I definitely think this is one that's succumbed to placebo over the years, and I'm going to put it in a low A. My reasoning here is I have a Superlight right here. It feels great, actually. I've done quite a few weight mods to it, and it just feels pretty rock solid still. I took the power play puck out of it. I cut all of the plastic for the power play and the dongle holder, and there's still more I could do to this, and it's probably, I think, 5 to 10 grams lighter than a stock Superlight. Different battery, took some of the wiring out, took the button out, and just these change adds up to be a decent amount of weight reduction. Do I think it makes it a better mouse? Yes and no. It feels lighter, but it feels more off balance. And again, as you can see here, I've actually placed the battery towards the back because this mouse gets super, super front heavy when you start removing plastic from the rear. And that, I don't want to say it's necessarily caused problems, but it hasn't felt like the greatest experience, I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's a slippery slope, I think. And when mouse companies are already creating mice that are super light, I mean, this Pulsar feels significantly lighter than those super lights. The GU Pro Super Brick, if you will. Or, Final Mouse just makes a magnesium mouse that's just like 29 grams.
Actually, it's carbon fiber.
Okay, whatever.
I'm going to hell.
I think the weight reduction overall matters much less, I guess, when it's already done for you. But when it's on a mouse where there are substantial gains to be had, aka the Super Brick, I don't know. I think it's an alright mod, and it's not super hard to do yourself. A lot of it takes a little bit of knowledge, but like I was cutting plastic out of that Superlight with a pair of scissors. So, I mean, it doesn't really take specialized tools. To do a good job, it takes specialized tools. But yeah, I think it's a placebo effect to where, oh, my mouse needs to be louder, and then you just cut a bunch of weight out of it, and then you end up with a poorly balanced mouse like my Superlight over there. So that's kind of why I'm putting it. I think bottom of A tier, even like high B tier, which I could kind of negotiate to.
I'm still chasing the mice don't have to exist, and we start actually having the ability to use trackpads. Honestly, okay, the core of the argument really is, while I would love to be able to, like, use the, like, 15-gram mouse or whatever that doesn't actually exist, but we're just throwing
Yeah,
out random
yeah,
numbers,
yeah.
you have to have it be balanced properly. At a point, you can have your, super light mice that, like, you've weight reduced or anything, but you really have to also make sure that it's still well balanced in terms of, like, feel. Like, it's literally is like you were saying, like, the G Pro becomes like super back heavy the more plastic you start cutting
It
out.
actually becomes super front heavy, but
Crap.
yeah,
Ah,
same
no.
concept, same concept.
I'm gonna get ruined on the internet
No,
anyway.
you're
But
not.
like, yeah, it really is more of a case of balancing than it is about sheer weight. Again, I would love to own the Final Mouse. If I could finally get one in stock,
Yeah.
and they also weren't kind of crap. But like, to me, the ideal weight range is anything at this point from 50 grams to like 30, genuinely.
Yeah, I think it's
And
pretty
at that
accurate.
point, it becomes more and more about balancing.
I guess completely fair. So, in your estimations, what do you think? I'm slowly convincing myself to a high B, in all honesty.
I'm convincing myself to a B quite easily.
Okay, cool. High B it is. Whoops. Okay.
There is a certain amount of placebo. I didn't even mention my whole thing about, in my opinion, lighter mice are better, especially if you like play best of threes and like Counter Strike or something, and you like have to sit there for a while. Like, helps, avoid more arm strain than is necessary.
Yeah.
But that's an argument for another time. We've got more tier lists to make.
Yep. Only one left, actually. We have right here. This is the. I actually don't know what these grips are called, or not grips. I guess they're kind of grips. Um,
God, how did I forget? I'm the one who put them on there.
you are
Clawmate.
Clawmate. Cool. I don't have personal experience with these. The
Neither do I, but I want to
idea,
comment on them.
yeah, I think the idea of them, contrary to these, which the so spacers are just like, I don't know, man. It's concept that failed in execution. These are actually a concept that are very well executed and actually
The
very
So
fairly priced as
Spacers,
well.
to me, are pointless and
Hmm.
do nothing. Whereas these have like a goal that's like a bit less obvious than the So Spacers, which are literally just designed to keep your damn like fingies on the mouse buttons or wherever you need to put them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just buy some grip tape, forehead.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're a really cool idea, especially considering I'm kind of a hybrid grip guy myself. With a little bit of palm mixed in, even though I can still see these would be very applicable to my grip style.
You know what we
So
haven't done yet that we should probably do is like actually explain what they're trying to do. Because like, I mean, you
yes,
don't use
yeah,
them,
yeah, yeah,
and I know, I won't say entirely what they do. There's actually a really good video on YouTube, but you guys have to go watch that yourself. That's
yeah.
not our job to do that entire explanation.
Correct.
So the really quick abridged explanation, um, pretty much they change the way that when you move your mouse, like, the force is applied in like a certain way. I think that like kind of goes obvious, like,
Hmm.
you have to be able to move your mouse. So with these, it kind of changes the angle that force gets like applied, so it becomes like more even, like how those like forces like counteract against each other, because the forces that your thumb is placing is different from the opposite side where you've got, your pinky and,
Yeah.
ring finger and such, like, etc.
Hmm.
So this is kind of meant to help, like, I don't want to say it's like meant to like, oh, fix a problem. In my opinion, it's more meant to give like a different experience. but that's just my explanation. I'd recommend the video more.
Yeah. Also, I think it kind of helps hold those clawed fingers in place because I don't think, especially if you put a lot of pressure on your mouse, those aren't prone to slip, but it might just help a little bit. In my opinion, these are probably a high B, low A, just because like they're priced pretty affordably. The idea is super helpful for hybrid claw grip kind of people.
I'm with the
Or
A,
fingertip,
and I'll
rather.
explain why in a second. Or
Um,
right now.
I mean, yeah, I don't have anything else to say about them other than pretty much what I just said. So
They're only A because these things really are useless unless you do like claw or palm grip. And if you do palm grip, it's becomes much less useful. Like this thing really is meant for like one specific like grip type, which there's no fault in that. Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure like a ton of people are like claw grip. Like it's probably like one of the highest grip styles. So like
exactly.
as long as you understand what these are for, not trying to like trick people.
Yeah, exactly. It's not
That
something.
keeps them out of S tier to me.
Yeah, it's something that's very curated. You have to be pretty deep knowledge in order to effectively not only use them but actually know what they're for. It's not a product like skates where the average person's like, "Ooh, skate good, I can make better." It's like they'll look at those and go, "Oh, what the hell are those for?"
Core.
You know. So I don't know. I think this is the tier list. I don't really think anything. I'll rearrange. Whoops. This S section because batteries are cool, but I don't think they're better than skates from Ice Pets. So actually,
skates absolutely probably like the top of this, but
yeah,
honestly, you should probably get a better mouse pad before you get new skates, unless your skates are worn out the hell like one person we know.
Exactly. I think this is also organized pretty effectively. I actually would like to put the wheel lower. Weight switches. Yep. Yeah, I think
I still can't understand spacers. I hope that they're slowly going out of business. I don't know why I've chosen a blood feud, but
yeah,
I just truly do not understand them.
Actually, I'm dragging cables down here. I don't think there's any like the materials are good, and it's nice when the charging cables are nice. But again, in a like, very wireless dominated
of companies still make good cables. I think like maybe the one exception is I think Zowie might be giving rubber cables when you buy a wireless mouse. So like I don't know. Zowie's always been like schizophrenic with their cables. Yeah. Zowie's always been schizophrenic.
Well, cool. I think we've got this list dang near finished then.
I don't see a problem with it.
Sweet. In that case, that is going to conclude this episode of the Tier List Show. Thank you guys for tuning in to the first online version of this show. This is probably how it's going to be for the foreseeable future, and I think it's going to be just fine, judging by how well this recording went. Sorry for the scuffed nature of it, me swapping my camera location and full screening midway through and refreshing the page. It's all good. This is also a keynote for me to add in the pre-travel mod up into S tier because it is crucially important to anyone who actually knows how to mod mice effectively. Incredible. Cannot understate how effective a pre-travel mod is. That being said, that concludes this episode like I was saying earlier, and we hope you guys tune in next time. See ya.